Welcome to r/slash idontworkherelady, where we share stories about normal people who are actual customers that are mistaken for employees at that establishment. This is TNA, top-notch audio. Get ready for some laughs. And at the end of these stories, we definitely appreciate your likes, comments, and definitely subscribe for sure. And this story is posted by u/Michelle Bites. Karen needs her very own checkout lane. This happened several years ago. I was shopping at Garden Ridge, which sold household items, decor items, gifts, and craft supplies. It was a huge store with 2 entrances and 2 sets of checkout lanes, 1 set at each entrance. I was casually shopping when a round woman in her 50s or 60s got right in front of my cart. She glared at me, and I tried to go around her, but stopped me again, saying, "You gonna help me or not?" I said, "What?" "I need a register open so I can check out." I looked at her, astounded. I said, "I don't work here, but there are registers open at the other entrance," to which she replied, "I don't want to walk to those registers. Now open one and check me out." I looked her in the eye and said sternly, "I don't work here." She threw her hands up in the air and started to walk away. As she was walking away, she turned and yelled at me, "This isn't over." I ignored her. I grabbed the last couple of items I needed and headed to the registers and checkout. I noticed the line was not moving, and I could hear that awful woman's voice. She was arguing with a cashier. The cashier called a manager. Other people waiting in line were getting impatient, and it was showing. The manager arrived and instructed the cashier to open another register so that the rest of us, the same people, could check out. "How come you open a register for them but not for me?" the awful woman yelled at the manager. He replied, "Ma'am, you're at an open register now. What can I help you with?" "I wanted a register opened at the other door, and one of you workers refused to do it." She kept babbling nonsense. I raised my hand and got the manager's attention. The awful woman looked over at me at the same time the manager did. It was her. She wouldn't open a register for me. Then she lied and said she didn't work here, shouted the awful woman. "Ma'am, she doesn't work here," the manager said. "Are you going to help me or not?" she yelled. "I'm trying to help you, ma'am, but you haven't asked for something that I can help you with. If you want to check out, then I'll check you out." The awful woman huffed and puffed and started angrily putting her items on the counter. I was nearly done paying for my items at the other checkout lane when she was done paying for hers. The manager handed her the receipt and told her to have a nice day. As the awful woman was walking towards the door, she paused and shouted, "I guess customer service is dead here." The manager shouted back, "Ma'am, you can call corporate and get out of your system. I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me or my staff." "Oh, I'm definitely calling corporate, and I'm telling them everything that happened here today," she yelled. I was walking past her and said to her, "I'm sure that will be rich. Tell them you need to have your own personal checkout lane while you're at it." She looked at me red-faced and shaking and yelled, "I plan on it," then took off following the sidewalk around the building. As I walked to my car, I was still in shock that someone can be so awful. And this next story is posted by u/Ballsy527. Where's the air conditioners? This happened last week in my local Walmart. Cass is me, off-the-clock employee, and random redneck. Recently, my roommate picked up the wrong brand of cat treats when she did the grocery shopping. She was trying to save a few bucks, but unfortunately, I have a pricky cat who won't eat the brand roommate picked up. I tried to return them to Walmart, and they told me it wouldn't be accepted due to the current pandemic. So I was already in a bad mood, but no big deal. I still had to buy the right cat treats. As I was on my way to the pet supply section of the store, I see an employee is walking in the opposite direction towards the front door. She is staring at the floor, not making eye contact, and talking on her phone. I am a manager at a clothing store, and this behavior says to me, this employee is not on the clock right now, either on a break or going home for the day. Do not interact. Apparently, not everyone gets this memo that this body language implies. Enter random redneck who is standing dumbfounded in the aisle, and he yells, "Where's the air conditioners?" at the back of this poor employee's head. The employee ignores him and keeps walking away toward the exit doors. But this interaction has caught my attention because I hate being spoken to that way when I'm on the clock. Do not bark orders at me as I'm walking away from you. Unfortunately, when I'm at work, I can't react to it, but I don't work for Walmart. So I stop in my tracks for a second to watch and listen. Employee is still walking away, and random redneck starts following her, screaming again, "Hey, where's the air conditioners?" At this point, I'm feeling uncomfortable because he has started puffing up his chest and physically started following her, so I yell at him back to say, "Dude, she's on a break." This guy then turns on me to shout his request again, "Where's the air conditioners?" I say, "I don't know because I don't work here and she's off the clock, in case you couldn't tell since she's on her phone and walking away from you." Redneck screams, "I don't give a shite if she's on her phone, mind your effing business," as I'm walking away and flipping him the bird. Needless to say, I got my cat treats and booked it out of there, but I mentioned to the greeter that there was a belligerent a-hole screaming at employees and customers over the other side of the store. I don't know if management would care, but I didn't want to take chances. TBH, it felt amazing to be able to stand up for myself and an employee in a retail store when I normally have to keep my composure and not say a darn thing. And this next story is posted by u/all names seem taken 548. Do I look like I'm able to work at the moment? So here's a little bit of backstory. My mother owns a small restaurant. I work full-time at another company in a completely different field, but I will help out from time to time if she's short on staff or if there are huge groups that can't be managed by only 2 people. I've had an accident recently, about 2 weeks ago, this will be relevant to the story, which basically trashed my knee, so I need to use crutches and I'm still getting used to walking with them. So here's the story. My friends really like the food at our place, so we decided to have a nice evening and go to dinner at our restaurant. The restrictions in order with Corona have been lowered where I live. So my friends pick me up, and as I'm slowly making my way to the entrance, there are some stairs. There's a lady that gets really impatient since I'm taking too long in her opinion. Didn't think of it, made my way up. As soon as we've entered, we get seated by the waitress. Let's call her Vanessa. The whole staff gets along really well, so there was joking about my clumsiness, and Vanessa tells me to throw away the crutches and help her a little since it's a little busy, as a joke. That's when the mentioned lady got into our conversation. She apparently was with some of our regulars and got seated by the other waitress, Nina. Unfortunately, she was at a table quite close to us, which means she overheard our conversation. After Vanessa had taken our order for drinks, she stood up and came over. She was at the start of Karen mode, she's right. You should stop being lazy and get up and do your job. Me, miss, with all due respect, I am not able to stand, let alone walk without crutches. I am not allowed to put any weight on my knee. So does it look to you like I am even able to work? Karen, well, that's not my problem. Now get your lazy butt up and get to work. Also, I want to see your manager. You should get fired for being so rude and acting injured so you can be a lazy POS. She then proceeded to throw away my crutches. Luckily, I was sitting, or else there would have been a high possibility that I face planted into the ground, and tries to yank me up from my chair. My mother, who had heard her screaming in the kitchen, came out to check what was going on and asked Karen if she could help her with something. Karen goes into full rage mode, telling my mother how lazy I was and that I had assaulted her and she wants to speak to a manager because I should get fired immediately. My mom's the best, so she just told her, "Well, I've seen and heard everything you've done. That was not my daughter assaulting you, but you harassing her, so just get the F out of my restaurant and don't bother coming back ever." What surprised me is that Karen just got her jacket and left. My friends and I had a nice rest of the evening, and our regulars apologized on behalf of Karen to me and even brought me some flowers a few days later. And this story is posted by u/whitePPLoveRanch. Horrible wedding guest. During college, I worked for an independent catering company that mainly did weddings. People tend to be either very nice or very mean at weddings to wait staff, and the company I worked for didn't really care about the customer, so I always tried to go out of my way to make everyone's experience better. Because my company was independent, it means that we would travel to whatever venue the wedding was being held at and didn't actually work for that venue. After dinner at the specific venue, I was bussing plates and had a full stack of about 10 in my hands with silverware in between them, which created some imbalance, and they were heavy. I was walking quickly trying to get back to the kitchen without being in anyone's way. This woman tried to flag me down as I was coming towards her, and I stopped quickly to say, "I'll be right back, ma'am. I just need to set these down quickly." As I started to walk away, she grabbed the back of my arm and squeezed it, which made me drop the plates I was carrying. Luckily, only a couple of the plates broke, and she just sat there and scoffed while I picked them up. Once I was done cleaning up, she snapped her fingers at me and did the finger signal to move in close, and she said, "Now that you're done being a klutz, Where's the gift table for me to put my gift for the bride and groom? I was so taken aback that she would talk to me this way. I explained to her that I only worked for the catering company and wasn't sure about where the venue had set that station up. She responded by saying, "Well, you need to do your job and find out then, don't you?" in the most condescending tone I've ever heard. Now, normally if the guest was nice, I would have been more than willing to go find a wedding planner and ask, but not this time. At this point, I was done being treated poorly at my job by guests and my bosses, and it was one of those moments I didn't really care if I got fired or not. So I got on my knees and started bowing to her, saying, "Yes, master. Of course, master. Anything for you, oh great one." She was pissed, and her husband was mortified. I got up, looked around the room, and from where she was sitting, I could see a table with gifts on it. I pointed and said, "I think it's over there. You can see it from where you're sitting, and I hope that no one ever talks to you or your kids, if you have them, like you talk to me." At this point, she was speechless and seemed embarrassed. Her husband mouthed, "I'm sorry" to me, and they left shortly after. I didn't get fired, but I chose to quit a couple weddings later after some more unfortunate events. These were 4 great stories, so we definitely thank you for listening, and do us a huge favor, comment, like, share, and definitely subscribe for sure, so you'll be able to get more of the reminders for new videos that come out in the future. Have yourselves an incredible day. This has been TNA Top Notch Audio.